Welcome back to the Warehouse Podcast, everyone. My name is Elijah. I'm here today. I'm wearing blue. Typically I try to throw some orange on when I do this, but I am wearing blue because that was just the shirt I happened to pick up today. And then I grabbed my Norfolk Tides hat, which is also blue. So this worked out nicely. Definitely not a color coordinated outfit or anything like that, but wearing blue in addition to by chance, because I'm going to talk a little bit about something different today. Typically we like to focus on the major league team here at the Warehouse Pod, but uh, there is a name as Norfolk season is wrapping up. There's a name on that roster that I think deserves some particular love, um, and I felt inclined to give it. We are givers here. We're not takers. We are givers of love, givers of appreciation, and yeah, we do take in the form of good baseball when it's around, but there is no not a whole lot of that with the major league club. So we're gonna talk about Norfolk, and that's fine. That's fine. The future can be good too. I have in front of me the minor league leaderboard for strikeouts by pitchers combined across all levels, and in 2025, of course. And the fourth name on this list is a name who some casual fans may not be entirely familiar with, and that is Trey Gibson. Trey Gibson was an undrafted free agent in 2023. We brought him in, and this year, in his second professional season, he has gone from high A to double A and finished the season in triple A. And throughout all of that, he has performed at a high level. He has struck guys out at an incredible clip, 166 punchies in 120 and one third innings. Um, Nobody on this list who is above him in total strikeouts jumped across three levels. And I think I will point out, if you go to raw K percentage, he's sixth in the minors. And once again, none of these guys jumped across three levels. And he's the only person with a strikeout rate as high as his to touch AAA this year. So, you know, not that strikeout rate is entirely everything, but with minor leaguers, there are very, very few things, minor league pitchers, there are very, very few things that are like more indicative of future success as a major leaguer. Um, and Gibson kept his walk rate down at 8.6%. Only one person with a higher K percentage than him had a lower walk rate. He does look to have the command to be a major league pitcher. He clearly has the strikeout stuff. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to talk about why you, casual Orioles fan, or not casual, even if you already know who Trey Gibson is, I'm talking to you too, why you should be excited about this. Um, the first thing I'll say is that major league uh, prospect evaluators have caught on a bit. Fangraphs has him as the number 73 prospect in Major League Baseball in their most recent top 100. They have him as the second best prospect in our organization, just after Basayo and ahead of Ike Irish, Vahiva Aloy. Um, and ESPN brought him in on their most recent update. He is 95th, the number three prospect in our org. And Pipeline has him at 12th because they're always behind the times and cannot keep up with prospect evaluation appropriately. So that's the last we're going to say about Pipeline. Coming back over here, though, like I said, Fangraphs only considers Basayo a better prospect in our system. Obviously, nobody is threatening Sammy right now, but um, all of these names that we collected at the draft and the trade deadline, Dylan Beavers is there, Enrique Bradfield, Nestor Herman, like all of these people are considered below Trey Gibson in Eric Logan Higgins' mind. Um, and that is because he has some really, really special stuff. One of the predominant things I think is he generates near 7 feet of extension. He gets way, way down the mound. He does throw in the mid 90s, is able to jump up into the high 90s when he needs to. But the four seam fastball sat a little over 94 this year. Um, and he just has this insane collection of breaking balls. It is really a pretty impressive plot. The thing that I always liken it to, when you see people who have this kind of feel for spin and the ability to manipulate the ball the way that Trey Gibson clearly does, I always look at somebody like a Seth Lugo, somebody like a Yu Darvish, who carry this huge array of pitches and do so in such a way that almost makes it like one continuous spectrum on a pitch plot, looking at their movement. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess I'll get into it a little bit, like what he works with. I told you this 94, 95 mile an hour four seam fastball. He does throw a sinker a good amount. And then these four breaking balls are this kind of interesting collection. He's got a larger sweeper that he throws at about 84 miles an hour. He's got a cutter slash slider that he throws at right about 90. Um, for those on YouTube, that's this yellow guy in the middle. Uh, Man, the the thing that is registered as a cutter by by Statcast is what we call a death ball. It's a more recent term. This was kind of a pitch shape that Driveline went ahead and examined and found that there is a particularly large number of whiffs to be found here. Um, and I think, the first name that really kind of popularized it in MLB was Jordan Montgomery as he was making the run with the Rangers. Orioles fans need no reminder about the Rangers in 2023. Um, but so, yeah, this death ball is and I will say, it's kind of interesting because like Jordan Montgomery threw his much, much slower um, but it's a similar induced vertical break. You try to get in the like -4, -6 range, just a little bit of vertical break induced in the downward direction. And then you try to give it basically no horizontal movement. Um, and this is found to be a really, I guess when you evaluate pitches, you talk about, platoon splits very often. And this is found to be a very platoon neutral pitch. And what that means is it's effective to lefties and righties. So this death ball, yeah, you can, take something like this and a more traditional like bullet slider, even gyro slider, if you want to call it that. Um, and you can take those and throw them to lefties and righties, get a lot of success. So it's this really unique shape, and this is another pitch that he is throwing close to 90 miles an hour, 87 and a half. So this is more sliderish than curveballish, but in minimizing that horizontal movement, it kind of just doesn't really do the things that hitters expect it to. Um, and so he works with that. He has that big sweeper. He has that, cuttery slidery thing. And then he's also just got this big hammer of a curveball that is down at about 82 miles an hour. So, significantly slower on the curveball, but he can attack you with all of these. As a hitter, you're going to be trying to read the spin as it's coming in, and all of these are going to look very, very similar from a spin perspective. Like I guess the two, sharper sliders are going to look more like more gyro-ish and maybe get that dot on them. But just the playing out of the hand, all of this will um, just really blend together and be wildly confusing as a hitter. And I think what is even kind of more impressive about him is uh, if I should stop for a second. I'm staring at prospectsavant.com that this is put together by an Orioles fan named Duke Hill. Um, Duke is a great coder, loves the game, chats about the Orioles on Blue Sky all the time. And he had the ability to go over and actually interview Trey Gibson before a game. And one thing that Gibson mentioned, so thank you, Duke, for the article. One thing that Gibson mentioned was he does also throw a changeup and has or I'm sorry, continued working on it in pens. It is a thing that he considers in his arsenal, but at the same time, uh, he has featured these breaking balls, and this has been what he has most heavily developed this year. So he hasn't really felt like he has needed the changeup, he said. Um, and so, all in all, you take a step back and you see this guy's got 7 pitches. Um, you can take a look. Duke has a PS stuff, prospects avant stuff rating. He's got 5 pitches here that are grading out at average or better. Um, and it's this really, really wide assortment of average to above average stuff, plus that 7 feet of extension, adding, this added element of deception and it makes the perceived velocity on all of this bump up a little bit. It is a really, really unique package. And to see somebody jump up from high A all the way through AAA this year, where he got, I think, 4 starts at the end of the season. I will double check that for myself. AAA, oh, I'm sorry, 7 games started. So did get 7 games up at AAA this year. Um, to see him really take that step after this only being his second full season. He, played in the Florida Complex League, and then low A and high A last year. Um, really just kind of took the world by storm, showing incredibly good stuff across the board, just dominant. And it's a name that Orioles fans should be excited about. Um, that being said, this guy is only 23 years old. I don't think that he's necessarily going to be competing for a rotation spot out of spring training next year. Not to say that's out of the realm of possibility, but I do think that the Orioles uh, very, very likely want to supplement the big league roster to a point where you aren't relying on, a top pitching prospect to take the world by storm in his first taste of MLB. I hope they're trying to supplement the rotation to that point. I guess we never know, but don't expect him really to make that jump right off the bat. But I do expect that, he could absolutely, absolutely spend the first 4 months of the season or so at AAA, get a good run in Norfolk, kind of master that level to an extent. If you are on YouTube with me and you are seeing the stats in front of me, these are only from AAA, and you can see like hitters were making great contact off of him. There is an element, to be developed here still. It is certainly not to say he's a perfect product right now. So uh, the Orioles tend to let guys master levels. They usually don't promote too aggressively. Um, and so, I'm excited to see kind of what this guy does with an additional offseason of development, with continued work. Uh, and I think all of us should be excited. The bats have been the predominant force in this farm system for so long that it's pretty neat to actually see like a top pitching prospect starting to come through. Once again, 2 of the 3 major sites that are used for the prospect promotion incentive, for example, do consider him a top 100 prospect. It's a pretty neat thing. Um, and yeah, I think that, oh, I didn't even look at Baseball America. I messed that up. Fangraphs is not considered one of the PPI um, websites. But that said, uh, I digress. 2 major sites consider him a top 100 talent already. Again, he is 23 years old. He's not going to turn 24 till next May, till we're into next season. Um, this is a really, really exciting arm. He has, I think, caught a lot of people off guard this year. It is a level of dominance and a level of refinement. One thing I will note about the Lugos and Darvishes of the world who do throw this really wide array of pitches, what is so impressive about that is it's difficult to keep distinct shapes in your head, I think, and to get your body to train, you know, 17 different pitch grips, basically. There's a reason that pitchers only throw three, four, five pitches nominally. It's because you can only throw 35 pitches in a bullpen, which means you can only work on this one grip for maybe five pitches or something like that. And every pitch you add to that, that's a hit on it. And every time that you throw a slider, with just like tweaking your fingers on it, a tenth of an inch or something like that, that is difficult from a muscle memory perspective to kind of like reconcile with the second pitch grip that is so close to it, the second, like arm motion, release, whatever. Um, it's difficult to keep those things distinct in your head, I think. And it's as such, it's difficult to enforce that you are going to get the shape you want as you throw. If you have, 18 concepts of how to throw a slider in your head, uh, you could end up with 18 different outcomes anytime you go ahead and try to throw a pitch. So it shows a level of refinement, a level of kind of body understanding, like understanding how he works and how to manipulate his throwing motion to get these different distinct shapes. You can see distinct clusters, on the pitch plot here. And that's a really, really difficult thing to do, to manipulate pitches in such a consistent way across this really, 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 really wide range. Excuse me. Um, so yeah, just a super interesting prospect. He is like a physical specimen. The dude is 6'5". I don't know if it shows it here. 6'5", 240. Big guy, and absolutely has the frame to carry a starter's workload. I told you already he threw 120 innings this year. Can expect that to bump even further next year. This is all, I mean, wildly exciting, and I think is indicative of the Orioles' philosophy. We talk about the Orioles not drafting guys. The Orioles do very much believe that they can get these guys from JUCO, from lesser known universities. I guess Trey Gibson was a undrafted free agent out of Liberty. The Orioles have confidence in their ability to take these guys, develop them in some, effective way, and turn them into major league pitchers. They are certainly doing that with Trey Gibson. I guess if I back up a little bit, I can say the next guy on the list is Nestor Haman, who went to Seattle University. That is not a place that anyone would associate with baseball if Tarek Skubal didn't exist. Braxton Bragg is what right after that. He was not a super high draft pick. Um, yeah, and then a couple guys that we've drafted, or I'm sorry, traded for international. We are able to stack pitchers, despite the fact that we are not drafting high. Um, so I think this kind of upside in a pitching prospect in this Orioles system is a testament to uh, kind of the legitimacy of the draft strategy, and I think is also just man, it's just exciting. We haven't been excited about a pitching prospect since Grayson, in the way that we are here. I think that Grayson could absolutely still be something, but it is undeniable that he's been disappointing from the standpoint of all of his injuries, from the, some disappointing performance, even when he is on the field. It's all been not quite what we wanted Grayson to be. So there is another one in the pipeline. He is similarly large. He similarly has dominant stuff. And, maybe this added level of kind of refinement that Grayson not did not necessarily have. Um, it's all very exciting. Definitely remember the name Trey Gibson, and that's all I've got for you today. If you could be so kind, remember to follow the podcast, subscribe to us, like the podcast. Anything you can do to support, we would be so grateful as always. Um, and yeah, man, I'm gonna keep watching the O's. I'm gonna finish out this season strong. We always do. I'm not quitting, but it is okay to look for excitement elsewhere, and that's what we did on today's podcast. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this with me. Um, and yeah, I hope we hear more good things from Trey Gibson. I hope we get some off-season videos of what he's working on, new pitches, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, Prospects are fun. They are something that, I listen to the On the Verge guys for, um, and I don't dive into for myself quite so often. But you go and look at something like this Death Ball, and you get comparisons to guys like Tyler Glasnow, um, Luke Jackson, Ben Brown, Spencer Schwellenbach, some guys who have these, more unique breaking balls that work really well. So that's all very exciting, I think. And yeah, man, it's fun to dig into. So anyway, I digress. I will talk to you all next time. I do apologize. It's been a long while since I've been on here. It has been a crazy time personally. I am excited to get back in a regular routine, excited to be back with you, and excited to be working a little bit less. Maybe, hopefully. Please, boss. We'll see. I will chat with you soon. Jesse's going to be back on shortly. Um, and yeah, we'll keep it rolling here at the Warehouse Podcast. Have a good one, everyone. Go O's.